Have you ever wished you could eavesdrop on a conversation with a millionaire? My name is Michelle Thompson. I'm a retired project controls engineer and business professor, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this podcast. I get to ask the questions that everyone else wishes they could. I'm going to find out exactly how they were able to build their empires through automation and outsourcing. And I'm going to break it down in a way that helps you build your business to run on autopilot. Don't miss out on Automate to Dominate. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today's guest is Carmen Ventrucci. Carmen is the owner of True Sisu Life. Sisu is actually a Finnish concept that means grit, determination, and tenacity. So no matter the circumstance, no matter the odds. And I absolutely love this mindset. So Carmen teaches corporate employees how to become entrepreneurs with her corporate dropout program. Carmen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So could you give the audience just a little bit of background on how you became so successful?
Absolutely. So one of the things that separates me is that I am very good at putting plans to goals. So remember, a goal without a plan is just a dream. And once you actually put a plan to a goal, you know exactly what you have to do every single day to move yourself towards that goal with momentum. And so that I've been able to apply this concept. I have my own goal setting concept that I apply to myself. I use it on my clients. And that has been one thing that has separated me from others.
And did you start out in corporate America and then become an entrepreneur? Or have you always been an entrepreneur?
No, I started out in corporate America. So I was actually lucky enough to have a job waiting for me before I graduated from college.
Oh, nice.
And so I was in corporate America for about, I believe it was 16 years. And then June 4th of 2019, last summer, was what I call my dropout date, the last day at my corporate job and when I went full time for myself. And yeah, growing up, I was always, even though I was raised by entrepreneurs, kind of weird, but now that I think about it, I was always, raised to go get a good job, go to college, and you will be successful. And as I went through adulthood a little bit more, my mindset shifted on that a little bit. And I realized that I can still be successful. I'm just going to do it in business for myself.
So what made you get the entrepreneurial bug?
So I've been real estate investing for about 16 years, if I'm doing the math. Yeah, about 16 years. And I did that early on because early on, whether or not consciously or unconsciously, I realized that I wanted more money than I was making in corporate America. So I figured out real estate investing. And from there, it's just expanded. I've been a successful real estate investor. It's a nice passive income. It's not my only income. So I wanted to find other ways to bring in additional income and use my talents. And then right now I'm 39 years old. So I've gone through that, we'll call it the mid-30s crisis, maybe, that a lot of other listeners may or may not be going through when they get to a certain point in their corporate career. And maybe they start realizing, you know what, this used to be a lot of fun, and now I'm not finding it as fulfilling as I used to. I had a lot of emotions tied to it all of a sudden that weren't there before. And I felt that my purpose was going a different direction than I couldn't really find my niche in my corporate environment to meet that purpose and what I wanted to do. So I decided, well, if I'm not able to do it here, I'm going to figure out how to do it on my own.
That's awesome. Good for you to have the guts to do that. That's a Sisu mentality, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So how'd you come across Sisu?
So we are Finnish on my mom's side, actually. And so it is a Finnish concept. So we were raised just knowing what that word is and what that word meant. I only know like 3 words in Finnish. Sisu is one of them. The other one I'm not going to say now because it's a swear word. So we were just raised with that mentality. And then I know you and I shared with you that my sister last year, almost a year ago, had just a horrific stroke. And that word kind of came back into our lexicon, basically to describe her. I mean, she's doing well. She survived the stroke. It was a really big one. And the recovery for her is definitely a marathon instead of a sprint, and she's still getting a little bit better every day. So that word really, I formed my company shortly after my sister's stroke, and that word just had to be in it. That's our brand, not only my brand, my family's brand. It is Sisu, because we are those kind of people where we are just going to overcome no matter the obstacle, no matter the odds. And we understand that we need that characteristic to get through life.
Yeah. And that's so incredibly important. I know we've chatted a little bit. I have a little bit of a similar story to your sister's. I got luckier than your sister. My stroke wasn't as bad, but that, it's interesting when you sit down in front of a doctor and they're like, this is it. It's not going to get any better. And you're like, no, it will. I refuse to give up. And so just having that mentality and it completely transfers over into the entrepreneurial life, right? Because it's not an easy journey. Like you hit, a ton of walls, and it's just the obstacle is the way is like one of my favorite books, right? Because it's, your answer is there. You just haven't figured it out yet. And it's that mentality of we can't give up, that grit, that determination. Every day we're going to, find the answer. So that is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that word for us. Hopefully we can start a little Sisu culture. That'd be great.
Yes. And thank you for yourself for being an example of Sisu. I love that you refused to accept that you were done healing.
Yeah. My doctor told me I was crazy, but I was like, hey, I got to try. He's like, okay,
everyone's
try.
Crazy in their own perfect way. So.
That's right. So one of the main things about this podcast is we want to talk about multiple streams of passive income, right? Because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And so you have, obviously the real estate passive income. How do you teach people how to begin to build passive income so they can quit that 9-to-5 grind?
Very good question. So again, I mentioned it a little bit before. I want you to have a plan, and I want you to be flexible enough in your plan, because it's a plan and it'll be wrong. So as time goes on and you start executing your plan, you have to be smart enough to incorporate feedback and pivot when necessary to deal with whatever circumstance reality happens to be throwing at you. And so that's really what I teach people is write it down. First of all, write everything down, because there's a study out there by a professor from Dominican University in California. You are 42% more likely to achieve your goal if you write it down.
Oh, wow.
And don't put it in your phone. Write it on paper and put it where you can see it. So absolutely. If it's as simple as writing it down, then write it down. So yes, put together the plan and be willing to accept the changes that you need to make, and give yourself permission to pivot, because you will have to. And it doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It means that you're human and you're wise enough to accept the fact you need to change.
And I think being willing to pivot is maybe sometimes some of the hardest parts, right? Because we latch onto it and we're going to make this work, and it's right. But being able to look and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I thought that's what the market wanted, but they didn't, and we just have to turn it just 15 degrees and boom, you hit your target market. Exactly.
It might be a small pivot is all you need, and then you're just going to blast off.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of happened with me too. I was so focused on one thing that I literally had another quote unquote superpower that I just did naturally, didn't even think about it. And everybody's like, why don't you do that? And I was like, well, I'm doing this. And they're like, okay, pivot. And I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and try to extract as much knowledge out of you as I can.
Awesome.
So let's say hypothetically, somebody has no social audience or following, right? They have no social presence, and they only have $1,000 to invest in themselves and their business. The goal is 60 days to replace the income of their job. What would you tell them to do?
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is a great question. I get asked several flavors of this question quite often, and I'm going to say it depends. So I'm going to give you a couple ideas. Number one, what do you already have that you can monetize? So let me give you an example. When I was in my corporate job, I frequently gave a presentation on networking to other colleagues in my company. That's monetizable. I could turn that presentation into something where very passively I could put it online and have people pay me for that presentation so that they could learn something. So my guess is you already have something in your arsenal that you can monetize, and you just need to make that connection that it's monetizable. Okay, so that's one example. Another thing I would do is to think about scale. So let's say, I'm going to make up numbers just for the sake of easy math. Let's say 10 grand. Let's say you need 10 grand a month to replace your income. Well, you could sell one thing for 10 grand a month, or you could sell 100 things for $100 a month. I think I did that math right on the fly.
So what is
math? Yeah.
I used to
usually
really
I'm
good
better.
at math.
Usually I'm like, no, I know my math and I don't second guess it. I was second guessing that number first. Yeah. So, so when you're thinking about it, what I see is people think they need this one, they need to do the one thing for 10 grand. When in reality, you could sell a lot of things for a less amount. And if it's something monetizable, like what we just talked about, maybe you already have it in your arsenal. I think that would be the way to go. So focus on what you already know and what you already have. At this point, avoid reinventing the wheel. You can reinvent it later. Let's get some small wins under your belt first. And that will allow you to hit the ground running. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of leads right into the next question that I wanted to ask. So let's say somebody, they're just starting out. They have no audience. They don't have a website. It's not like they can put the course up on a website. Mm-hmm. What systems and tech would they have to put in place to make that one superpower that they have that's sellable, make that happen for them?
Okay. There's a lot that you can choose from. First, I would start with your basics. So your social media platforms are YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I would make sure you have, those are free. So that's the good news. Make sure you have both your personal, on Facebook, your personal profile and your public figure page or your business page, depending on what you're doing. And then have business accounts on the other three platforms. And content is free. Consistency is free. So be sure you are consistently delivering some sort of content across those platforms that people will like. And remember how we already talked about pivoting and changing your plans if necessary. I mean, experimentation is free on these. So just post something. If you get a lot of engagement, great. People liked it. If you didn't, try something else. It's that simple. So start there, because what you want to do is start, engineering celebrity or engineering your influence in the online space. So start there. And those are free. So that's the good news. There's also a lot of free email marketing apps and platforms out there that you can use. So if maybe you write a chapter for an ebook. If people sign up for your email, it automatically delivers to their mailbox. So there's a lot of just set it once and then forget it, or maybe change it occasionally to keep your content fresh. And that'll help get your word out and start building your audience. There's also a lot, there's VAs out there. There's things like Fiverr where you can get your logos made for cheap, and you can always improve it as it goes. It doesn't have to be perfect. One thing I talk a lot about to people I'm coaching is you don't need people are buying you, not necessarily your website. And so there's a lot of things you can do with a very, very basic landing page. You don't need this elaborate back end. You don't need an elaborate, you don't need to hire a professional photographer to go take some random picture. I mean, just have a decent headshot. If you're going to invest some money, maybe invest money in a decent headshot so people know who you are. And just if it's bare bones and ugly at first, that's fine. My website is still bare bones and ugly, and I'm still getting clients. Like, it's down and dirty. It gets the job done. And so there's a lot out there you can do for free in the tech space. I mean, I think email marketing is key. You need an email list. You need that to engineer that celebrity on those 4 major platforms for social media. And there might be another one, depending on what your product or service is, that you need to engineer celebrity on as well. And that can be done relatively cheap. It's just going to take a little trial and error for you on your content to see what message is resonating with your audience.
So let me give you a scenario and see if I understood what you said and what's the word? Follow the steps correctly as to what you're saying. So let's say I am really good at gardening. And so I decide that I'm going to make a little course on how to grow the perfect tomatoes. And so I don't have a website. I don't have anything like that. But I know that there's some places like Skillshare and Teachable that I believe on Skillshare, you can actually do that for free. Teachable, I think, is like, I don't know, $19 a month. So let's say I record my little videos or I make an ebook on it. And then, so that would be like step one. Or actually, maybe I don't even need to make it yet. Maybe I go on social media first and start getting interest in somebody who wants to grow tomatoes. And then I can create the ebook, or would you do it? Which way would you do it first?
You could do them both at the same time. The nice thing, so people learn differently. There's some people who learn visually. They need to see it done or read about it. There's some people who are audio. They need to hear it or have somebody tell them. And then there's other people who need to actually do it and go through the motions before they learn. You could take that same piece of content. Let's say you have steps 1 through 5 on how to grow the perfect tomato. Okay. You could make 5 separate videos for each step. You could rip the audio from that and just have the audio file for each step. And you can make a worksheet on each step. So right there, you have 3 different modalities on how you can deliver the exact same content to people, and then they can pick what works for them. Or, blast all 3 out there. People will gravitate to what naturally works for them.
So I'm going to push you. Which tools do I use for each 3 of those pieces of content?
All right. So YouTube is great for video. So I would put your videos on YouTube.
YouTube's free.
YouTube's free. If it were me, I would do the book or the worksheets and probably hire somebody from Fiverr to make it look pretty. Right. And for the audio, you can just once you have the videos, you can just rip the audio from it. I know I just do it on my computer. It's just built into my computer, the software. I don't do anything special for that, and just use that for the audio files. Yeah. So that's how I would approach that.
I think Audacity is free for PC users, and GarageBand is free for Mac. If you had a video and you wanted to just pull the audio, or I think you can just do a really simple, take an MP4 file and create MP3, and there's like converters that'll do it for free.
Yeah. So it's very simple.
What do I do with my audio file now that I have my audio file?
So you could take your audio file, you could do a couple things. You could, if you don't have a website, what I would do, I would just set it up so it emails to people and then it's in their email. Okay. And so once you get their email list, again, you can set this up in your email marketing software. MailChimp is one for an example.
MailChimp is a great one to start with for free.
Yes. That's what I started with now. That's what I started with. And it just automatically emails. So once they buy your course, or if this is a piece of free content that they get for subscribing to a list, it just automatically goes. So that's what I would do with the audio file. Now, another thing I would recommend that, I can't keep up with all the different software that's out there. There's a ton of great programs. We've mentioned a few.
It's a go
to those target rich environments of people who are using this stuff. So find those entrepreneurial groups on Facebook. Join them, or if you're really into, I'm sure there's groups for people who love making videos. Join those groups and post, hey, I need to do this. What tools do you guys recommend? And the people, your village in those groups will just come through for you and probably tell you more than what you need to know in order for you to make a decision on what might be best for you. That's usually what I do when I need to find a new tool. Sometimes there's tools I don't even know I need yet, that I'm like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Does something exist? And people are like, yeah, try that and see which one you like the best.
Yeah. And it's amazing how when you ask for help and you're nice about it, not, like,
Yeah.
everybody give me a free handout. It's amazing how many people will come and actually help you. It's really, really encouraging just once you get into those communities, like you were talking about. If you're having like a specific problem and you put it out there, I'll do that all the time, and I'll usually have 2 or 3 people that get back to me in a couple hours, and they're like, oh, Michelle, go do this. Or they find a YouTube video and they're like, hey, Michelle, go watch this YouTube video. That's another huge resource. When I started my podcast, I had absolutely no idea about audio and how do you split tracks and all this stuff. And so I YouTubed it. I was like, okay, how do I learn how to do this? And YouTube is an amazing place to learn all kinds of things for free that you can implement in your business. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, you brought up a really good point about, sending something on somebody's email. If you don't have a website yet, MailChimp has a way to create like a landing page, like inside of MailChimp. And if you don't know what a landing page is, it's basically just something where you collect somebody's email address, and then you have their information, so you can keep getting them information about how to have the perfect garden. Because maybe once you're done with your tomatoes, then you talk about, I don't know, zucchinis. I'm not the best person. That probably was a bad example. And then what you would do is maybe go back to your Facebook and say, hey, here's, the top 10 tips on how to grow perfect tomatoes. And then you put the link to the MailChimp thing where they have to put their email in. And that way you've captured their email. And then down the road, you can start to monetize it. Because right now, everything we've talked about is getting a social audience and getting a following, but we haven't really monetized anything, right? Not yet. So how would you pivot to monetizing it?
Awesome. So there's a couple ways you can do it. So you have your email list. You can absolutely email offers to people and make offers that way. Excuse me. So that's number one. Number two, start your own Facebook group and invite people. You can get a lot of organic leads that way through Facebook. So start your, the perfect tomato group or the perfect gardening group, and invite people. DMs are a great way to invite people to your group, and you can make offers inside that group.
Now, when you say DM, you mean direct message, right?
Direct message, yes.
Through Messenger, Facebook Messenger?
Yes, okay. Through Facebook Messenger. So I personally have my own Facebook group, and that's one of the ways I find a lot of great people to join the group. Is I see them post something on Facebook, it makes me think, hey, they would be a good person for this. I will direct message them, send a link to my group, and invite them to join. It's free to join. It's just you're inviting them to be part of your community. And once they're in your community, you can occasionally make offers. I wouldn't say you need to give them some value as well. You can't just be pitching offers all the time. They will stop listening. Right. And occasionally you can make an offer and find one, because it's great, because then you've established rapport with them. They are part of your group. They know what to expect from you. They know, like, and trust you. You have the rapport. Go ahead and make an occasional offer. So that is a great, great way to make offers and start monetizing something. You can also run ads. Running ads, it took me a little bit to learn. I have to click on this and then click on that. It's actually fairly easy to do. And then if you use something like Stripe, for example, you can collect the payments with Stripe or PayPal easily, and just collect the money and then automatically send everything to your clients or your customers that they paid for. And then I also want to comment again, monetizing in Facebook groups is very easy. So I just want you to be cognizant of your words, and that you're providing value to those Facebook groups. These are other people's Facebook groups. So those target rich environments, those entrepreneurial groups that you might be a part of, or in this case, other gardening groups. You might want to invite them to your group if it's appropriate. If there's a call for, hey, post your services, it's promo Wednesday or whatever day it happens to be, go ahead, promote yourself. You can promote yourself for free all you want organically on Facebook and Instagram and everything. It's a great place for finding leads. You don't have to pay for all your leads.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're just starting out with $1,000, I would not recommend trying to pay for solo ads or something like that. You would
not yet. Not yet. Not yet. No. But that's a good point. You just made me think of something. As you are slowly I don't want to say slowly, as you are starting to make those sales, I want you to make sure you're reinvesting some of that money back into your business so you can start running ads and you can start upgrading your website as things go on. That's very important. Don't blow, honey, don't blow through all your allowance at one point, like what we learned when we were children. So reinvest. Absolutely.
And I think it's, should be stated. I mean, I'm sure I'm stating the obvious, but not only do you want to put part of that into ads or, whatever, but part of that also needs to go into educating yourself as an entrepreneur. So you learn some of those other skills so that you're not reliant on everybody else, good, spend the time on you and it'll definitely be worth it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, so we've talked about like a ton of things, right?
We have
all these things. Nobody's going to know how to do all of these things 100% just from this conversation. And I know this is what you do. So if somebody wanted to hire you as a coach, how would they do that?
The best way to find out more about me and how to hire me is go to my website. That is, it's like I said, down and dirty. It's just a click funnel at this point. It's www.truesisulife.com. And you can learn more about me, more about my products and the people I help. And, I want to promote my Facebook group too. It's called Map to Successful Life Design. So you can search for that on Facebook. And it's full of people who want to take action to design the lives they want to live. So I'm a firm believer that we all have that power to change our lives and to change them in the way that we want. And so it is just a wonderful group of people. It's a wonderful community. There are just some wicked smart, wicked inspirational people in this group. So check us out. Again, it's called Map to Successful Life Design. Search for that on Facebook or go to www.mindsetactionpassion.com.
Mindsetactionpassion.com. Okay. So let's say you've just met an aspiring entrepreneur at a networking event and you could give them just one book to read. What would it be and why would you recommend that book?
Oh my gosh. Last year I read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, Voss. You're not in your head. I know you know this book. It's a book on negotiation. And let me tell you, the tactics and the negotiation strategy I learned from that book, not only did it like completely upend everything I thought I knew about negotiation, and I'm a pretty good negotiator. I can use it in business. I can use it parenting my children. I can use it with my husband. Like every person I encounter, I can use a technique I learned in that book in order to help us get to a mutual agreement. And I know a lot of people hear the word negotiation and they're like, ooh, those slimy sales tactics. That's not what it is at all. Not at all. I listened to the book on Audible. It was wonderful. I'm actually going to go buy it because I have the physical book because it was that good. Things like mirroring and mimicking techniques, even things like the tone of your voice. So you get a better rapport if you use your late night FM DJ voice with people. And so just, the best read I had of 2019 by far.
Nice. That is a great recommendation. Absolutely. So if you could put anything on a billboard just once, what would it be?
I need it on a billboard. That's a good question. Okay. So I have 6 kids. My husband, myself, and all 6 kids do Taekwondo. And they take awesome, like every sports seasons for kids, they always take the team picture and everything. They take the best pictures because they let us pose with weapons. So I have a picture of me and my husband and the kids, and my 3-year-old is holding nunchucks. My twin boys are holding swords, and they pose you like in superhero poses. So it's kind of like we're superheroes in this Taekwondo picture in our uniforms with our belts and, these weapons. And it is the best picture ever. I would put that on a billboard because that would stop traffic. Like there would be an accident right under that billboard 24/7.
Exactly. So what slogan would you put on there?
Oh my goodness. Badasses raising badasses.
There you go.
So that's what I would put.
See, I think it needs to be a t-shirt.
Hey, I should make that into a t-shirt. That's a great idea.
Make that into a t-shirt. Have a coffee mug every morning. So
there you go.
Awesome. Well, Carmen, thank you so very much for your time today. You have just given us like an amazing amount of value in a very, very short amount of time. And I just want to remind everybody one more time you can catch up with Carmen on our Facebook group, but then also our website. And I want to spell it for you guys, just in case you don't know how to spell Sisu. So it's www.truesisu.com. So thank you so much, Carmen, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Automate to Dominate podcast at www.awesomeoutsourcing.com/podcast. My name is Michelle Thompson.